Hello and welcome to A Review to a Kill, the James Bond retrospective podcast where we rewatch every Bond from Connery to Craig to review and rank each one. I'm your host, Special Agent Sedgwick, and returning for this debrief is an agent that had better things to do than deal with Carl Schrammberg.
Chris Carter. Yeah, I would send my basic bitch to deal with that dude.
So me? Today we are reviewing Moonraker, the 11th Bond outing from Eon Productions. What? We said for your eyes only after the last film? Well, Star Wars happened and made a lot of money. So, here we are.
It's so bad. I took notes of all the references and all of the advertising that was in this movie. This movie was so slapped together.
The film premiered at the Odeon Leicester Square in London on the 26th of June in 1979. The premiere weekend set a theater record, but reviews were mixed at best. Sean Connery himself said that the film was widely departed from the reality of his 6 films. The film also had a wide departure from the source material, scrapping everything but the villain's name.
Ian Fleming wrote a Moonraker book? Did I not read that book?
He did. And it was just about a guy who managed to make his own intercontinental ballistic missile and put a nuclear warhead on it and threaten London for some ransom.
Interesting.
But Broccoli said that was piddly after the last few movies. Broccoli also said, and this is why I don't think they were self-aware, that he does not deal in science fiction. He deals in science fact. And then we watched this movie.
He said that, huh?
I'm not with determination and confidence, too. He was serious about it.
Let me tell you something. Some of it is scientifically accurate.
No, none of it is. We'll get there. Made for a franchise record of $34 million, more than the first 6 films combined. It made $210.3 million in the box office. The film was the most financially successful until GoldenEye and was nominated for 3 Saturns and an Oscar for visual effects.
Well, I gotta kind of hand it to him. I mean, they were definitely taking notes from E11, and their model work was impeccable.
The crazy thing is they actually had a guy come out and they were like, yeah, how much would it cost to do this? And then they took one look at the number and they were like, yeah, no, we'll just figure this out. Produced by Cubby Broccoli, Roger Moore returning. In Bond news this month, it's the last mission of the year, and we hope you've had a good year and stay safe on all of your holiday missions.
Absolutely, you guys. Stay safe.
The dots roll out, and we're hit with a deep, booming version of the Bond theme. It's one of my favorites so far. The Bond plate is tinted slightly brown, and the barrel plate is crisp and clean, as is the deep red blood. The dot reveals a Boeing 747 transporting a space shuttle with the name of Moonraker on its side. This movie ended up coming out before the shuttle debuted, but they worked with NASA on design and were initially aiming to premiere alongside the Space Shuttle program launch.
Their accuracy and, like I said, their model work was impeccable.
It was pretty close.
It was pretty fucking close.
Cutting inside of the plane's cockpit, we see the captain of the craft, Colonel Kennedy, played by George Burt. He asks the RAF officer Richard next to him about their progress. Richard is played by Kim Fortune, our brave sonar officer with a stripper name from the last movie. Dennis Surratt plays the flight engineer in the back. Cutting to inside the shuttle, we see storage bays open and 2 goons make their way out. Benoit Farreau and Patrick Florsheim play the baddies that make their way to the cockpit of the shuttle and strap themselves in. They start up the craft, and we cut back to the plane as the captain is alerted of the rocket's engine ignition. In a series of quick cuts, we see the goons punch it and the shuttle take off of the plane's back, destroying the plane in its flaming wake. Get used to the models.
Get used to the models. They spent a lot of money on them.
Cutting to M's office, we see M getting the news of the shuttle before storming to the door, just like in the last film, to ask if Bond is back from his Africa job. He's on his last leg, sir, Moneypenny says, and we cheekily cut to Bond's hand roaming up a woman's thigh. Bond is trying to join the Mile High Club with a stewardess played by Layla Shinna, who's saying, "Any higher, Mr. Bond, and my ears will pop." Cutting to the exterior, we see a handily paged jet stream, and this is no model. With that established, we cut back inside to see the hostess pulling a revolver on Bond. The pilot comes out in a parachute and takes the gun before firing 4 shots into the controls. As he approaches Bond to shoot him, instead of, from where he was or just jumping out, Bond kicks the gun away and they tussle.
This movie's combat was weird. Really, really weird.
Bob Simmons.
Fucking Bob. I don't know if I can take much more Bob.
You can do it. I believe in you. The hostess parachutes out, by the way. No hosts were killed in the making of this scene. Instead, Bond and the man trade blows inside the fuselage before the pilot, played by Jean-Pierre Castaldi, pulls the emergency door release and fights Bond through the door.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how neither of them were sucked out of the fucking airplane when the door popped.
Because they weren't high enough to pressurize. It's meant for jumping out of. That's what we're doing. It's like they planned this.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's like they planned it.
It's like if you look really close, you could see little parachutes underneath their suits.
Suit jackets.
We cut to outside the plane, and we see the stuntmen hanging out of the hatchway fighting. Bond is almost pushed out before throwing the pilot out, just to have Jaws sneak up from behind him and push him out. Surprise, motherfucker.
Where the fuck did he come from? Has he been on this plane this whole time?
Yeah. Dude, okay, listen, he was hiding in the closet again.
I mean, that's definitely enough weight the pilot would have to account for it. So, I mean, if this was a setup from the beginning and everybody was in on it, why is James Bond still alive?
I don't know, they wanted to let him play with that girl a little bit.
I guess.
The Bond theme kicks in, and Bond freefalls with no parachute toward the falling pilot. This scene was Mike Wilson's idea, and they sent out the stunt guys to perform it. They used a special titanium camera body with a plastic panoscopic lens on the cameraman's head, which still could have broken his neck, and they did the dive multiple times, filming around 30 seconds of usable footage with each dive. And as we said before, everyone had hidden parachutes underneath their jackets.
It's a miracle nobody had a parachute failure. When you start to cover up parachutes like that and you do so many multiple jumps, it's kind of a miracle everybody made it.
Well, they're ditching their jackets, but that means there's someone on the ground just like waiting to catch those falling jackets.
Matthew's like, some fucking intern had to go out into the field and pick up everybody's jackets.
Pick them up? No, he better be out there trying to catch them. I don't want dirt on those things. We got to do another take. Fucker. Where's my coffee?
Dude's in a Jeep. Let's get over there quick.
Bond catches the pilot and they fight for the parachute before Bond takes that shit and kicks the man in the face to his death. Bond attaches the chute just as Jaws swoops in behind him. Jaws grabs Bond's calf and goes to bite him, but he's too slow, and Bond pulls the chute, escaping Jaws, who's left to fall after his ripcord rips out. No pun intended.
Is Jaws just big enough to destroy everything? That's the gimmick. It's such complete and total slapstick.
Things get super silly as circus music plays and Jaws flaps like a bird.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
They cut in inserts of a circus as well, as we see Jaws fall through the tent, collapsing it, and giving us the worst title lead-in so far. Maybe ever. A drum roll that wears out its welcome, and an odd spinning plate of what's supposed to be Jaws falling into a net. 0 out of 5, would not recommend.
The title sequence was, I just wrote one word, boring.
I thought it was a little dumb in getting things going. Like he said, it's like, where was Jaws the whole time? Why didn't he already just come out and kill him on this small plane where he's trapped now, you know? Like, this girl had a gun, too. She could have just put it in his head and hell told him to sit there, and Jaws could have eaten him by now. Like, but no, we're going to go ditch this plane for some reason. And that's stupid, but the skydive is fun, and it leads to that.
The skydive was great, but the thing that leads to the skydive...
Yeah, the shuttle theft and the skydive were good, and everything else was boring or bad or stupid in the middle, and then in the end it just became universe-breaking, franchise-breaking, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And definitely character assassination for Jaws.
Definitely character assassination for Jaws.
It's not like the knife wasn't in there, but that was the twist that killed it.
I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about that.
The title sequence, like last time, is blue and smoky, with new girls on trampolines. But this time, it's even more smoky, and the nude girls are actually rotoscoped instead of, barely or even properly lit. And there's a moon.
Yep. That's it. That's fucking it.
Do you remember in the beginning of this series, like when the title sequences would just be like these artistic and psychological metaphors for the movie coming, and now it's just like, here's a moon and some naked girls. It's Moonraker, you get it? That's literally the level of effort.
Right? And you couldn't even really tell they were naked. I was like, no titties?
The girls fly around the screen in bronze against the blue. There's a shot of the Earth and a girl floating above it. Second unit directors, Ernest Day and John Glenn.
Not that John Glenn, even though this is Moonraker.
When I was a kid, I was like, so the guy who did all these Bond movies was like the first American to orbit the Earth.
If only, then maybe the science would have been better.
I can't believe we hadn't made that joke before, but it would be Moonraker that made it come up.
Yes, well, Moonraker was the most apropos for the joke.
Then there's an odd shot where a girl pretends to be a jet, and the dots from Dr. No take over her like an infection or something. Not like anyone else knows what the fuck they were going for here.
Almost an homage to Superman, but Superman hadn't quite come out yet.
That was weird, is what it was. They were trying to make her like some weird, like, look at me, I'm a space jet.
It's weird. The whole thing was, like I said, just boring and dry. And
Maurice Binder hasn't cared for many movies now.
I can't believe. What the fuck?
How the mighty have fallen.
It's probably because they were like, Maurice, you have 2 weeks to give us something.
You know what that's really funny is because that's probably fucking true.
It's probably true.
Assistant director Michael Chayko. Action sequences by the man that won't die, Bob Simmons, if you couldn't tell by that plane fight. Production controller Reginald A. Berkshire, our champ for the most British name on crew.
Ooh, nice.
Visual effects by Derek Meddings, and also returning is Peter Lamont as visual effects art director. Then a really cool shot of a woman's hair like flames for producer's pet, Mike Wilson's card. Director of photography, Jean Tournier, who took over for Claude Renoir. Renoir, as Carter alluded to in the last episode, lost his sight, which makes his cinematography in the last film even more impressive.
It's remarkable. The man was almost blind when he did the last film.
He shot the Carnival Mardi Gras scene for this film over a year before principal photography and bowed out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's the only bit in this movie that we get from Claude Renoir, but he did do that.
Well.
Edited by John Glenn, pulling his double duty, Maurice Binder's card comes up with a non-rotoscoped and barely lit treatment, because of course he did.
Well, yeah.
Production designed by Ken Adam, because no one else could have done this back then. Music by John Barry, title song Moonraker performed by Shirley Bassey, and it sucks.
It was so slow. It's like they were like, hey, Shirley, we want you to sing a song, but hold back.
No one likes this song, including Shirley Bassey, who doesn't play it live if you don't believe me.
No.
She didn't write this song. She didn't have any input in writing this song. She didn't have that much time to learn it. She didn't feel like it was her own like the other two Bond songs she's done. And it's the one she doesn't like to play.
So I was absolutely right in my assessment that they held Shirley Bassey back.
Yes, absolutely.
More
girls, more moon. Associate producer Bill Softbone.
Softbone.
William Cartledge. Sorry. Screenplay by Christopher Wood without the Dick Maybaum training wheels.
Right on.
Produced by Cubby Broccoli. Directed by a returning Lewis Gilbert, who's 2 for 2 so far.
Yep.
The smoke fades to M's office before cutting to Bond walking into Moneypenny. She asks why he's late, and he says he fell out of a plane without a parachute. She laughs and tells him to go right in, but he's taken aback that she doesn't believe him.
You don't believe me? Like, I'm fucking 007. Like, bitch.
Okay, that's a good point.
If I say I fell out of a plane without a parachute, you probably better believe I fell out of a plane without a parachute. I'm 007.
Bond walks into M's office where M, Q, and the Minister of Defense, Frederick Gray, are waiting on him, impatiently. Bond already knows what's up and leads with, Moonraker? M asks what he knows about it, and Bond says what he's read in the papers. They reveal the shuttle was hijacked in midair and was not in the wreckage of the plane. The U.S. is pissed, as they trusted the RAF to ferry the craft for some reason.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. It's like, why would they let the British fly it over when it's your...
Why did you need the British to get a 747 to fly your shuttle?
Right.
We would have just done that, and always have.
And always have, and always will.
We built the plane and the shuttle. Fuck off.
Fuck off.
We don't need a middleman for ourselves.
Well, I guess in this world we didn't build the shuttle, so...
Yeah, okay, that's fair. In this world, we didn't build the shuttle. Okay. Still stupid. But still stupid. The shuttles are built in Cali by Drax Corporation, so Bond needs to head to Cali. But before he goes, Q has something for him. Finally. I mean, it's just a watch band with a dart gun attached, but it's something.
It's something. It's kind of dope. I like it.
I'm not mad at it after nipples and lint.
Nipples and lint.
Guy Hamilton hated Q, and I'm so glad he's gone.
Let's have some gadgets back.
Bond test fires the dart gun in the office, 'cause of course he does. And the dart plants in the rump of the horse on the portrait of King William III at the Battle of the Boyne in 1690 by Jan van Wyck, much to M's chagrin.
Man, the suits in this room were so fucking offended. It's like he struck a live horse.
In the universe, I'm sure that was supposed to be the actual painting, and that's why everyone...
I see.
The darts come in two varieties, armor-piercing and cyanide-coated. But that dart didn't even go through a painting, and you're telling me it's armor-piercing? Maybe that was the cyanide-coated one. Maybe that's how thick of concrete and steel M's walls are to the office.
That makes sense, too.
I think we're giving far more credit than the writers thought of. Cut to an establishing wide of LAX before panning down to Bond entering a helicopter. Inside, the pilot, Corinne Dufour, played by Corinne Clary, welcomes him and takes off.
Man, the 70s chicks were hot.
Bro, you're not wrong about this chick. And she never wears a bra, and she's got the hair and the cute short hair, and you know how I am with chicks with cute short hair. If the UK unions weren't bad enough, the tax rates rose enough that the producers only shot model scenes at Pinewood. They shot in Brazil, Venice, America. They took over every major production stage in Paris just to get out of those taxes. Fuck you, Margaret Thatcher. Because of this, they had, by French mandate, to use a number of French actors, like our pilot here, many others, but more importantly, our villain. But unlike our bilingual villain, stalwart Nikki Vandersill again returns to voice Corinne here.
See, that's what keeps throwing me off about all these random Bond girls. It's always the same voice actress, and I'm like, I know her? No, I don't know her. Why is she familiar?
I think it's awesome. You don't realize it, you don't catch it, but your brain does. And so
yeah.
It's like you said, you don't know what's going on, but there's this familiarity to all these girls. And I think it really helps sell the attraction when you only have a few minutes with them.
Yeah, that's true.
It works on me, I feel like. And I know what's going on. After leaving the LA airspace and into the Mojave Desert, they come upon a facility, and she says, everything you see now is the Drax estate. Bond says, it seems like a lot. And she says, what he doesn't own, he doesn't want. And, I mean, it looks like an Amazon warehouse, but whatever, Bond's impressed.
Yeah, I guess so. Must be a lot of real estate. It's a lot of desert.
For pheasant hunting.
This movie, Jesus Christ.
The main complex looks like Derek Meddings made a model from a Ken Adam design. What an odd coincidence that they found a facility that looked like that to fly over.
And the bit of expository about Bond asking the question, is this where they make the Moonraker? when the fucking thing is clearly printed on the side, on the roof of the building, so big you can see it from the sky? Is that where they make the Moonraker?
Dude, every attempt to make Bond look smart in this movie made him look like a moron, in my opinion.
Oh, man.
Next, they come upon Drax's palace, which is the Chateau de Vaux-le-Vicomte, composited into the feet of the Mojave Mountains. She says Drax had it brought over brick by brick and bought the Eiffel Tower, but they wouldn't let him export it. We get it, he's rich and obsessed with space rockets. Elon Musk villain in a Bond film part 2. I'm starting to think Elon Musk based his life goals off of Bond villains.
Seems like it, huh?
When the copter flies low over the property, the mountains disappear because they shot in France and couldn't be bothered with any more compositing.
Right? 1 minute they're in California and the next minute they're in California? Wink, wink.
She points out astronauts training, and then she lands. Arthur Howard plays a butler named Cavendish who takes Bond to Drax.
I laughed so hard when they introduced the butler's name as Cavendish. That is the most English butler name in the fucking world.
Drax sits in his parlor. 17th century ostentation. Gold trim, immaculate antique chandeliers, surrounded by Louis XVI furniture. Drax is playing Chopin's Raindrop Prelude on a Steinway. Michael Lonsdale, who immortalized Hugo Drax, is actually playing the piano here. Stop Googling it. No more Quora questions, no more Reddit threads about it. He is actually playing the piano here. This guy is everything Karl Schomburg was not. Another super rich guy trying to destroy the world to rebuild it in his image, but it's done right this time. He's suave, cool, classy, cold, intimidating, and most importantly, his plan isn't completely stupid.
Yeah, all of the above, and I think he was doing his best to channel Orson Welles.
To be fair, a lot of people misremember him as Orson Welles. That's a Bond Mandela effect.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's 2 Bond Mandela effects in this film. Some people misremember this guy as Orson Welles, myself included when I was in my early 20s. And a lot of people misremember Dolly as having braces, but we'll get into all that later.
Oh, wow. You know what? I thought Dolly had braces when she first popped up on the screen.
How kind of the British government to send you on such a delicate mission. What delicate mission? Bond asked. To apologize to me in person for the loss of my shuttle. How would Oscar Wilde put it? To lose one would be an accident, but 2 craft is carelessness. Drax drops 2 steaks in front of his 2 Doberman attack dogs, who don't move for the meat at all. A man walks in with a tray. This is Chong, played by Toshiro Shuga, real-life Aikido teacher of Mike Wilson. He's like, if I put you in my movie, will you notice me, senpai?
Can I get a new belt, please?
Chong has brought the one British contribution that Drax actually enjoys. Tea. Bond refuses tea time because Bond hates tea, as we've learned. Drax talks about looking for the best people with the best skills for his program, and then snaps his fingers, causing his dogs to eagerly gobble their meals. Corinne comes back in a new outfit and takes Bond to Dr. Goodhead. After Bond leaves, Drax tells Chong to look after Mr. Bond. See that some harm comes to him.
I like how James Bond is treated like a fucking investor the whole time he's here. This dude is here on a mission to find out about a missing shuttle, and you're treating him like, you're giving him the tour like you want him to drop a couple million into the company. That's all I'm saying. Like, everybody knows why he's here, right?
We cut to Corinne, leaving Bond to find Dr. Holly Goodhead, played by Lois Chiles. Bond's Mad Men-era brain can't believe the doctor is a woman, and she's already annoyed with his archaic machismo. She's on loan from NASA and has no time to play tour guide, so let's get on with it.
He's a pig, dude.
He is a pig, and he's out of his place even in this era already.
Right.
And I think that was kind of the point of having some of this dialogue with this character. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Chris Wood has been strengthening the female characters more and more with each movie.
Right, I have noticed.
But he did think that the Goodhead name was quite Fleming, she was quite okay with having the obscene name, so they went with it. Besides Pussy Galore, it's one of the more famous.
Oh, well, yeah.
Everybody loves Pussy Galore just because Pussy Galore is her name.
Right?
She shows him the shuttle production, and as she explains some shit, he interrupts her to info brag, and it annoys her further because it was fucking rude. Though he's quite amused with himself. She shows him the centrifuge, and he again mansplains its purpose to the doctor, showing him around.
What a pig. He's a pig.
He gets in to try the machine, and she straps him in. She puts his hand on the kill switch and leaves him to enjoy the ride. Chong enters and tells Goodhead that Drax wants her on the phone. He then goes to the control room and kills the kill switch before cranking that shit to 11.
You don't get into a centrifuge without a pressure suit because your insides get squishy.
It's fine.
And you black out way sooner. Oh, it's fine.
We don't care if all the blood in his heart and lungs get pushed to the back of him. Be fine.
He'll be fine at those G's. It's not like he's getting on a tilt-a-fucking whirl.
Why do people get in their spacesuits to blast off? I have no fucking clue, bro.
No fucking clue.
It's stupid. We should quit, actually.
This whole fucking movie. Sorry.
Roger sat in a chair with an air hose that he pointed from off-screen at his face to make this scene. Bond hits the switch, but nothing happens. The ride keeps going faster and faster, and Bond hits 13 Gs before shooting the panel in front of him with his wrist dart, stopping the ride. And how?
You're right. Okay. Sensitive equipment is what I broke it down to, and any malfunction.
He's in a pod attached to an arm.
Any malfunction automatically instigates a kill function.
Why is there even an instrument panel in front of him? What is in that pod that can make that machine arm stop if punctured? And why is it in there when there's a whole room dedicated to controlling it and the occupant's hands are bound? Why are there controls? Goodhead rushes in, worried for James and her job, and Bond sees Chong in the control room and walks off. Cutting to later in Corinne's room, Bond walks in without knocking as she grooms in her negligee. He wants info, and she says, "Why should I tell you anything?" And he kisses her, smiling at her like, you
know you want this.
You know so, girl. You presume a great deal, Mr. Bond. But he just kisses her again and looks at her like,
I like how he's dressed in what can only be described as tactical suave.
Tactical suave.
Tactical suave. It looked like velour, too. I mean, just gotta
Some missions called for the tactical black, some call for the tactical suave. She smiles and leads him to bed. She answers his questions and lays down for penetration.
And just lays down for penetration.
We cut to an insert of Chong creeping, and back to Bond ditching the bitch to get some info somewhere else since she had none. And Bond is ballsy. See, I was afraid to get up and go to the bathroom at a sleepover when I was a kid. He's just creeping through this dude's house.
Right? Yeah.
She walks in on him, and he asks if there's a safe, which her eyes inadvertently dart to for just a second. "Thank you," he says, moving to a clock. "James, no," she protests as he opens her safe with the X-ray safecracker he keeps up his ass next to the microfiche reader.
He always has the perfect Q gadget on him, and we never see him get that gadget.
He holds the X-ray up to her chest, and he says that she has a heart of gold, and she says 18 carats. So, not very pure.
No, not the purest.
I don't think this was a mistake either, because she didn't tell him about the safe, and she didn't want him to open it. She's not helping him. She was fucking him to keep him tied down. He just doesn't stop. And this is important to remember for later.
Right.
Bond takes photos of schematics for some kind of giant pod with a glassmaker in Venice on the plans. He resets the room and she implores him to go. He says, "You go first," and take care of yourself, very tenderly, before leaving himself, and the camera pans over to reveal Chong was hiding in the room the whole time.
And see, that's the thing with James Bond. That tender take care of himself is like, anybody who helps me is probably going to die. So watch out.
It was like, yeah, so she's dead.
Yeah.
That's what you call telegraphing in the industry, kids.
I'm sure they were going for foreboding.
I'm sure they're going for foreboding. Yeah, 100%. Like I said, they thought they were doing everything a little bit better than they did. Cut to gunshots and pheasants dying. Drax is having a hunt on his land. Looks as if he likes more than just tea time from the Brits after all. As Bond pulls up in a 1936 Hispano Suiza, the bugler plays the opening blast from Also sprach Zarathustra by Strauss, the theme for 2001 A Space Odyssey, and all the hunters clear out. You like that sci-fi reference? Because we're going to have some more.
Oh yeah.
Drax nods to a man, played by Guy Delorme, who takes a rifle and climbs into a tree. Bond walks up to Drax, who says, "It's a pity you leave us. Such good sport." "Unless you're a pheasant," Bond retorts.
By the way, pheasant is delicious.
Drax says, "Come now," and hands him a gun. They move into the field, and we see a tree sniper scoping in on Bond. The pheasants are routed into the air, and Bond raises his firearm, following them through the tree line before pulling his trigger as the pheasants all fly off. "You missed, Mr. Bond," Drax says as the tree assassin falls to the ground. "Did I? As you said, such good sport."
Bond's just going to kill a guy in front of this guy?
Yeah, well, he was going to kill him. What is he going to say? What is he going to do?
Right? What's he going to say? What's he going to do? I guess that's fair. Just hops in his car and gets on his merry little way.
Yeah, it's like a big middle finger. I feel like in that moment, he should have turned and shot Drax also. But whatever.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Put a round right in his chest, but then he couldn't have figured out what was going on.
Spoiler, those two words, "did I?" are my number one-liner so far. But minus points for that ugly tweed suit with elbow pads. Roger's suits mostly suck.
The 70s fashion of this era was all about the disco, baby.
Disco fever.
More like cocaine fever, but
Studio 54.
same thing in the 70s.
Bond takes his leave, and Corinne comes up in a Harley-Davidson DE4 golf cart. Drax says, "You showed Bond the safe," which she swears she didn't, because she didn't. And she protested the whole time.
Right?
Sorry she's not 300 pounds and couldn't physically restrain him.
Right? She didn't show him shit.
Drax says she's fired and to leave immediately and to put on a bra.
He definitely didn't say that. Drax has totally been surrounded by a brunette and a blonde at every instance.
He then snaps his fingers and his dogs give chase. She runs through the woods in the most horror movie sequence ever in a Bond film. This is legit terrifying as these dogs chase down a human fleeing for her life as they tear her to shreds in a gruesome death.
This scene was very a la The Omen, which was popular at the time this movie came out. I mean, it had been out for a few years, but it was still pretty popular. And there was a scene where the Dobermans were terrorizing the mom, and it was scary when you were a kid. And secondly, when you started this sentence, you were like, "she runs." And I was thinking to myself,
To the golf cart.
the end of that sentence should be "to the golf cart she just got out of." But she actually runs past the golf cart to get into the woods before the dogs are even released. Why did you not just get into the golf cart and drive away? You saw the dogs there waiting to eat you as you passed the golf cart. I thought to myself, oh, she's just going to hop in the golf cart and drive off.
Mercifully, we cut to an establishing pan of Venice and see Bond arriving by gondola. He seeks out the glassmaker from the plans at Drax's estate, Vanini Glass. In the St. Mark's Square, you can see not only Cubby and his wife, but also Mike Wilson in this scene.
Really? They're all in there, huh?
In real life, Vanini Glass is just a glass store. In this universe, it's a very simple storefront of a table with some 2 items and a clerk with resting bitch face.
Oh, man, does she ever.
She offers Bond to go wherever he wants in the facility for some reason. So, of course, he goes to the back and walks through the furnaces and kilns of the glass-blowing area, and everyone is like, why is this Limey back here in a suit?
Well, he's in a suit, and he's white, so obviously he belongs back here.
Further into the facility, he runs into a showroom with a tour going on, and it kind of feels like this area would have been between the storefront and the factory floor, but whatever, who am I, Frank Lloyd Wrong? Bond spies Goodhead in the tour and follows her when she breaks off, catching up to her along the canals. She still hates him and spurs his advances. She walks off and Bond hops in a gondola and heads off the other way. As Bond glides, a funeral boat passes and the coffin opens, revealing the occupant to be alive and armed to the teeth with cutlery.
This dude is the most ridiculous assassin I've ever seen in my life.
He throws a knife at the man piloting Bond's boat, killing the man. He throws another blade at Bond but misses, so Bond throws it back and kills the man with his own blade, who just falls into the coffin dead.
Yeah, that's it.
Game over.
It's a dope coffin, don't get me wrong. Reminded me a lot of El Mariachi. It's like, wow, he's got all those knives in that coffin.
Not anymore. Bond hits a switch and his gondola drops a prop and takes off. To make this happen, they put engines on gondolas just to find that the boat design dug into the water at high speeds, so they had to special build this to go 60 miles per hour. As Bond takes off, another boat comes in behind him. They fire at him with machine guns, and he's not covered, not ducking, taking no evasive action, but hey, maybe Bond is just really lucky.
Have you ever tried to shoot something with a machine gun? You were in the Army. It's hard to shoot shit with the machine gun.
Especially when you're moving, but also at the same time, like...
That's why you use a machine gun, because odds are you will hit something.
Eventually, he's not doing anything to avoid getting shot. It would be believable if he was doing anything because they suck that bad, but right. He's not.
He's not doing anything. He's just on the boat.
I left out 2 comedy bits of a smoking man finding the coffin and a couple making out on a gondola that's split in half because they aren't funny and are quite stupid, but it gets worse.
Oh man, does it get worse.
Bond approaches the steps to the Piazza San Marco itself. He turns his gondola into a hovercraft and cruises through the plaza, accompanied by not only Johann Strauss's Trish Trash Polka, but some of the cheesiest reaction shots in movie history, including a fucking double-taking pigeon and our double-taking alcoholic from the beach of the last movie, Mr. Torjansky.
The wine guy is back with his bottle of wine in disbelief. And it was a triple-taking pigeon.
It was stupid and probably one of the most dumb things. The double-taking pigeon cut is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen in a Bond film.
It's probably one of the worst things I've ever seen in a movie.
It's like the worst thing I've ever seen in a Bond film.
This is straight slapstick. Why?
The bit of the gondola converting and rising out of the water took 5 takes, as the contraption would malfunction and catapult Roger into the water 4 times.
Perfect.
He said, luckily, we got it on the 5th take because I only had 5 suits. If it did it again, we wouldn't have been able to get it. He drove through the plaza, and there was no crowd control, and the purpose-built vehicle didn't steer well, and Roger thought he was like to kill someone.
He probably would have.
You see actors darting out of the way. You see shocked real tourists with genuine reactions. You see children chasing the thing in the back of the frame. Bond takes out a painter's easel. There's another insert of a dog. A waiter pours beer on a man's head. The goons get so frustrated that the boat speeds off so fast one goon falls into the water, calling the other estupido.
It's dumb.
It's all beyond silly. It's a movie ruining 2 minutes.
It's a movie breaking 2 minutes.
Almost unbearable.
Yeah.
Just trust me, that was the worst bit of the film because that wasn't funny or redeemable. It didn't have any value. It was all just, it was annoyingly stupid and bad.
It was annoyingly stupid and pointless.
100% pointless. Because if you took it out, you never would have noticed.
Right.
Cutting to later that night, Bond breaks back into Venini glass and watches a lab coat punch in a code to get access to a locked room. Bond goes to the panel and punches in the same code, which is the tone from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Lewis Gilbert is such a movie nerd though, bro.
Oh man, is he ever. I was like, oh, so you guys are going to even throw a Close Encounters reference into this movie. I'd forgotten about that, too. I was like, oh, yes. Okay, so this movie is a parody.
It's not a parody, it's trying to pay homage. It's falling parodic because it's not self-aware and terrible.
Because of all the other stupid stuff. Yes.
Inside is a secret lab where Bond sees the glass containers that were being made, and here they're being filled with vials of chemicals. The technicians take one of the loaded giant pods out of the room, and Bond swoops in to snoop. But how does Bond know the 3-button code that he does for this inner door? He couldn't have seen anyone do it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Maybe it was labeled.
Fair enough. There's a post-it next to...
There's a post-it next to it, yeah.
He retrieves the vial, but it's hard to tell what it is. He goes to place a vial and a glass tube in a pod to examine the arrangement, but the doors are opening. So he leaves everything haphazardly on the pod, steals a vial, and cheeses it. The lab coats come back in and knock one of the vials he placed on the side over, releasing a gas that kills them both instantly.
Oops.
So yeah, thanks, James, murderer.
Thanks, James.
The metal doors to the lab glow as they seal shut, and Bond notices the gas didn't kill the mice in the lab. As Bond is leaving through the glass museum, Chong pops out in full Aikido sparring garb with kendo stick, which, come on, yeah, it'll leave a welt, but for real, a kendo stick?
Like, you know how good your Aikido has to be to kill somebody with a kendo stick?
You have to break the end of it and then shove it in their eye. Chong chases Bond into the museum showroom, and this scene, at least at the time, was the record holder for most breakaway glass in a scene. Spoiler.
Was it?
Chong goes off like he paid for one of those venting rooms. Bond grabs a glass-handled sword and cuts the kendo stick, because it's a kendo stick.
You're right, because it's a kendo stick. Are you really trying to kill me with a piece of bamboo?
Get out of here!
They're called shanai, by the way.
Fair enough. They tackle each other into shit. Bond takes an art piece to throw, but an alarm sounds, so he places it back, just for Chong to smash it, although this doesn't cause the alarm to re-trigger.
No, the base is still there. It's kind of like the Indiana Jones trick.
Well, if it's the base, then it should be off weight, and now there's like 1/8 of the weight. If it's a sensor, then most of the thing that would hit the sensor is gone now. Like, none of that makes sense.
Yeah, none of it does. Because it's not built like that. Because this movie's stupid.
They break even more glass, and Chong runs off. Bond checks the vial in his breast pocket before pursuing. But dude, if it was broken,
if it was broken,
you'd be dead.
You'd both be dead already.
You don't have to check.
You would know. You would not have to check.
Upstairs, Bond finds crates with the packed pods marked for Rio de Janeiro. Chong chokes him out with a chain before Bond flips him and kicks him a few times. Bond climbs a rope for no reason.
Just to show he can.
Chong takes the stairs and has to wait on him to finish.
Yep, he couldn't find him. He ran up there and he was looking around. He's like, where the fuck is this dude? He's hiding.
Nah, he's standing there looking at him climb the rope, like, get up here so we could do our beats. Like, cut the rope, kick him, do something, stab him.
Right over there and stab him or something.
They fight behind the face of the Torre del Orologio. Below, a tenor belts the aria Vesti la Guiba from Pagliacci.
But Doctor, I am Pagliacci.
Bond tosses Chong through the clock face and down through the band's piano, leaving his legs up in a very cartoon manner.
This whole movie was a very cartoon manner.
Bond leans out saying, "Play it again, Sam," in a misreference to Casablanca that was never actually in the film, but was actually the title of a 70s film about a man obsessed with the 1940s classic.
I remember Play It Again, Sam, actually.
You're the only one.
Whatever.
Cutting to Goodhead in her hotel. She's chilling in her room in her nightie. She goes to hit the lamp switch and something crazy happens. Bond's hand reaches out of the dark and grabs her, revealing he's in her room and has been. Creepy.
Way creepy, especially because he goes, boop, gotcha. Like,
right? I was about to say, the way they did this scene was so odd. Like, Bond reaches out slowly if you watch it with no sound. But with the sound, there's a loud bang and a man 80 yards in going, "Ah!" as she gasps.
Weird.
Jump scare in my Bond film, I guess.
I guess.
He was toying with a little bit of horror in this.
A little bit.
She wants to know what he's doing there, and that's fair.
That's absolutely fair. We're like, what the fuck are you doing in my room?
What are you doing in my fucking room, you piece of shit? How long have you been in this in the shadows?
You're a creep.
He says Chong tried to kill him, and she asks what that's got to do with her.
Well, here's a couple of things. You guys are work associates. I've seen you together. Last time he tried to kill me, I was with you.
Maybe, or maybe it's more like, yeah, bitch, look at this. Poison needle in the pen, dart in the diary, Bollinger 69. You were expecting me. Come on. You CIA. What about this flame-throwing perfume bottle? The radio in your purse?
I know, he breaks down all over gear. It's like another Q gadget fest.
Very astute of you, James. Yeah, I know a guy named Felix. Hey, we should work together. It could be good for both of us. And they bang.
Shit, for all he knows, that could be Felix he's working with right now.
But, to be fair, she hasn't been swayed at all. She's just changing the way that she keeps him at bay. But he's James Bond and immediately sees that not only does she have a ticket for Rio, but she has the poor taste of smoking cowboy killers.
Marlboro. Product placement.
Joe Camel is disappointed.
That's not the only product placement either.
Oh, it gets way worse than that.
Oh, way worse.
It gets way worse than that. That's tasteful product placement compared to how bad it gets.
Oh, man. Does it ever?
Bond asks where she's going, and she says she's not going anywhere as she smiles at her packed luggage in the other room. Bond leaves when he thinks that she's asleep, but as soon as he's out of the room, she calls for a porter to get her bags.
Never trust him. CIA.
It's really that she doesn't trust him.
And why would you? He sneaks around, lingering in her room.
He's a sexist dinosaur.
Right?
Who condescends her constantly. Who patronizes her existence constantly because she doesn't have a penis.
Mansplains everything. You're just an object for me. Yeah, I wouldn't trust him either.
Bro, I'm a CIA officer who's actually a rocket scientist. Why don't you suck my dick?
Right?
Cutting back to Vanini Glass, Bond has brought M and Gray to check out the chemical lab. At the door to the lab, Bond hands out gas masks and opens the door. Inside, though, somehow, the entire heavy metal lab of cold steel is somehow replaced, killer gas and all, by a palatial room right next to Drax's estate with the man himself standing in the center.
It's crazy, right? There was a lab here. Where did everything go?
But this room is huge and could have easily housed the lab that Bond was in before.
Easily.
Gray apologizes and M looks pissed. Cutting outside, Gray scolds M and says to take Bond off the case, which M says he has to do. Bond gives M the vial from his breast pocket to give to Q, and M knows that he's telling the truth.
Yeah, see, here's the thing with that, too. It's like, why wouldn't you lead with that?
Bond tells M to take a 2-week leave of absence again because Bond going rogue happens more often than Ethan Hunt. Cut back to Drax on the phone saying, reroute the merchandise. Also, Chong is dead, so we need a replacement. Oh, him? Yeah, send him. That'll do nicely.
Shit, motherfucker, that's all you had to say. The wolf is coming?
Cut to Jaws going through the 70s version of TSA and setting off the metal detector with a shiny, toothy grin.
Yes, because this movie is after D.B. Cooper and metal detectors were new.
Well, it was definitely a good bit when your man's made of metal.
Yes.
And then cut to another extinct bird, the Concorde.
It's a tragedy what happened to that plane. It's not really a well,
it is.
It is a tragedy what happened to that plane. That plane outclasses planes being built today. Just saying.
Yes, it does. We still haven't built anything better, in my opinion.
We have not built anything better, but it's way too expensive to fly.
30 years of operation, one crash. What killed it was the fact that it cost so much to operate that they could only market it to the super rich, which means they couldn't get enough people to pay for it.
And it was not luxury. I tell you, the inside was not like you're sitting. Well, it wasn't luxury to begin with. You can't, I mean, it was a very thin metal tube. And a couple of seats, maybe some champagne, that's about it.
I feel like everyone who flew on it thought it was pretty fucking luxurious because the crew actually used the Air France service to get to Brazil from London in 4 hours and flew around from there in private Learjets. They probably shot some of the crew landing that day for this insert. On the tarmac, Bond is greeted by a 1973 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow and the driver sent by his hotel. Along the way, we're treated to money shots of Rio. And that's something this movie really does more than any of the ones in the past that the future movies will make mandatory, turning these establishing shots into money shots.
Right?
All their second unit shots were fucking amazing in this film. They really elevated establishing shots into something more by like doing better shots of them and just really showing off the more beautiful aspects of locales.
Right.
Instead of just saying, here's where we are, they're like, here's where we are, and we found the best places to shoot. Bond notices a 1979 MP Lafer with a dame playing paparazzi on his tail. Bond tells the driver to lose the bitch in Portuguese.
Is that what he says?
Pretty much, but he didn't say bitch.
Right.
Sorry. Guys, I paraphrase in my own language. I think we know this by now.
Right.
In his hotel room, he dismisses the nervous hotel manager, played by Peter Howitt. Bond then walks over to the bar in his suite, which is being tended by the girl that was following him.
Why, if she knew where he was going, why did she follow him?
So closely to give herself away. She didn't need to be made if she knew where he was going.
Yeah.
I get following him. I get like, oh, he's leaving now.
Right.
All right, I'll let me stay a little bit back and I'll park up front. Like I know where he's going and I'll still be in his suite. There's no reason to be made.
No reason to be made at all.
Do you come with the suite? It depends who's renting it. And she gives him his signature drink as he inquires why she was following him. She says she's Manuela, played by Emily Bolton from Section VH, M Center, which I actually believe because she knows about their sections.
Oh, okay. V8's a real section.
They actually went out of their way in From Russia With Love to show that Red Grant only knew about all this because he specifically overheard bits of conversation and then took identity from someone else later on. So I believe this. And also it turns out that she is, yes. So.
Well, yes. I was like, are you just going to believe this bitch and take the drink she offered you, huh? Okay.
Right? But I believed it, like the section thing sold me. And he's gone off worse. He looked at a revolver in Live and Let Die and was like, oh, you must be CIA.
Yeah, that's true.
She also tells him that Carlos and Wilmsburg are Drax's major importers and tells him about their warehouse. He starts undressing her out of fucking nowhere and we cut to Carnival.
Right? Well, she was just wearing a bikini, I guess.
She was wearing like a shirt that goes over the bikini with the ribbon for the belt. And dude, an outfit is not consent.
An outfit is not consent. No, it's not. I don't get it either, Matthew. Like, he pretty much bangs every broad in this movie.
Which is fair, but like he was just like, yeah, how are you? Yeah, cool. I'm Bond. You're host. So yeah, well, that's information. Yeah, we should do that meeting on Monday. Anyways, take off your top. I'm gonna stick my dick in. Yeah, that's what it was like. It was literally like Logan's Run, where like out of nowhere, Peter York is just like, yeah, la da da. Anyways, let's have sex.
Yeah,
it's as jarring and off-putting as that scene always has been to me.
Hmm. It was pretty bad. This
Carnival Mardi Gras is a mix of scenes shot by Claude Renoir over a year before anything else was shot and some smaller-scale reshoots with Roger, Emily, and Richard. The two spies make their way through the crowd toward the warehouse. At 59 minutes and 11 seconds in, there's a large clown that, if you don't know what you're looking at, just looks like he's stumbling through the parade behind Bond. But that's Jaws diving for Bond as he luckily just walks out of the way. 14 seconds later, as they're leaving the crowd, you can see the same clown trapped behind the crowd, just staring at them. It's very intentional. But it's not in your face.
But you can notice it if you're looking for it.
In the alley, Manuela shows him the way back into the warehouse. Shows him the back way into the warehouse, and he goes inside. She's left in the alley with revelers and an odd clown. Cutting inside the warehouse, Bond finds nothing, as Drax has had it all moved.
And why would you hang out in an alley with a strange clown walking up on you very slowly?
At an hour into the movie, at exactly an hour and about like 40 seconds into this movie, we get an insert of the parade, and there's a man who, honestly just looked down. Just look down right now underneath us at the picture that's being shown. And I'm sorry, Spotify users, but it's indescribable. But wow, he chose to leave the house like that and go party. Cutting back to the alley, we see the clown approach Manuela. But surprise, it's Jaws.
Surprise, oh my god. It's Jaws the whole time. It wasn't a guy in stilts.
He knocks her blade away and goes to slow bite her. But some revelers party through, and he plays along like they're dancing with them. When they pass, he tries again, but Bond jumps on him. Before anything can happen, though, another crowd dances through the alley, and Jaws gets carried by the current of coked-up carnivalers.
She never screamed. It's like they were in space, because I couldn't hear her scream.
Well, in space, no one can hear you scream, so...
But they weren't in space. They were in an alley in Brazil.
It's Moonraker, though. Space.
Yeah. and the other thing is, Jaws is a gigantic, strong enough to lift up a fucking minivan, but he can't push through a crowd of little Brazilian revelers?
Hey, man, current is strong. I mean, think about it. Just like in the river, they underestimate that all the time, too.
Yeah, but, you can't kick the current over.
You can't kick a crowd over at once. It's so many people. Come on.
That's fair, I guess.
Bond did manage to find a sticker for Drax Air Freight, and she tells him which airport they operate out of. Crossfade to a band of a red monkey, an elephant, a giant cock, a dog, a cat, and a purple bear. It's a fucking party. Just look at 7-Up shirt guy. He's digging it. 2 girls for every guy. Where is this party? Oh, it's at 7-Up headquarters, I see.
I was thinking to myself, that band must be fucking dying. They're in Brazil. They wear full fur mascot fucking outfits and playing instruments standing up. They're dying in there. They're dying.
This is actually at Sugarloaf Mountain in Rio. Bond takes the cable car to the top, and what a view. Not the vista of Rio, I mean James's lapel. That collar looked like he about to take flight. Jesus, the 70s, dog.
The 70s, everything was bigger?
Bond goes to a tourist telescope and uses it to spy on planes at the airport. He follows one, taking off, till it leads to the other telescope, with Goodhead behind it, giving these two the meet-cute moment they so desperately needed for anything further to feel convincing after their previous interactions.
Oh, you mean a scene where James Bond isn't a complete dick?
Instead of they hate each other, they're fucking. And they love each other now.
Well, that happened, though.
I mean, they fuck, but they don't love each other. She's still like, fuck you, I'm lying to you, I'm out, I don't care. Like, this is good. This is character development.
Okay, I dig it.
Bond and Goodhead call each other out on past BS and then move on, deciding to work together for real. They wait at the cable car, and we get an insert of Jaws in the gear room before back to the duo, now aboard the cable car. All of a sudden, the car stops, and we see Jaws stopping the machinery with his hands. They do that bit with the machine creaking and Jaws looking at it as you do a home appliance that's testing your patience.
Yeah, that look back bit because it keeps still moving or whatever. Every scene Jaws is in is stupid slapstick almost.
Bond says, well, it stopped for 2 seconds. We're obviously better off on top of this thing. And bring that random convenient chain the last family left in here.
Don't you know there's a chain in every fucking gondola that goes? People leave chains and overhanging gondolas.
Another quick insert of Jaws repeating the last joke. Back to Bond, and back to Jaws about that quickly.
Yep.
Jaws bites the pull cable, and the cable car jolts for some reason, causing James to almost fall off. He's fucking cliffhanging by his fingertips 2,000 feet up. And while Roger may have been safe, his double, Dickie Graydon, was not.
Oh, yeah? He really hung off the side of that? I mean, yes, I saw the stuntman. He was hanging, but he wasn't, like, strapped in or something?
Martin Grace is a normal-sized dude with dark hair, and Richard Graydon was a short dude with light hair. So Jaws and Bond for wides right there. But specifically for this shot, Graydon was supposed to be harnessed in to hang over the edge, and he was not ready for that shot and was not harnessed in yet when Gilbert radioed for him to go over and do the stunt. Graydon, being a typical stuntman, didn't say, hey, hold up, boss, I gotta go gear up if we're moving ahead with that. Nope. He hung himself over the edge by his fingertips and held there until an oblivious Gilbert finally called cut.
Wow. That's stuntman crazy right there. That's stuntman crazy.
Wikipedia and IMDb will say he slipped, but interviews with both of the stuntmen involved and Lewis Gilbert say otherwise.
Dickie was like, fuck it, huh?
Back to Bond, hanging on for dear life when Goodhead says, "Hang on, James," and he's like, "No shit, bitch."
Yes, basically. He didn't say that, but that was basically what he said.
His face did. He's like, the thought had occurred to me. Cutting inside to the control room, a goon knocks out the poor guy working the cable car and takes over the controls. Cutting to Jaws, we see him making his way to a cable car, one hand at a time, and that's some record-breaking grip strength right there. If Ninja Warrior taught me anything, it's the bigger you are, the harder it gets to hold yourself up by your hands.
Oh man, does it ever.
But Jaws makes it to the car and gets on top as the control goon gets the cars going so that Bond's descending car meets with Jaws' ascending car. And didn't Jaws bite the pull cable?
Right. What was the whole purpose of biting the cable again?
That was the shake cable. It shakes the cars.
It shakes the cable.
If you bite it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what that was.
It wasn't the supporting one and it wasn't the pull cable, so it had to be the shake cable. Bond sees Jaws coming and makes a nothing joke. The cars meet halfway up. The adversaries smile at each other and Jaws jumps over.
I mean, yes, he jumps over, but man, that was a horrible edit. I guess nobody was willing to jump across the cable cars, but man, that was awful.
Jaws tries to choke Bond, and Holly hits Jaws with the chain, so he backhands the fuck out of her. As you do.
In the 70s especially.
The fight is limited by the fact that they're on a cable car and can barely move. But when they cut to the wides of unharnessed stuntmen just grabbing stuff and swinging and punching and kicking, it's kind of nuts. It's just the close-ups that suck.
It is kind of nuts, but it is the close-ups that suck.
They push Jaws inside the car and lock the hatch, which Jaws punches through. Bond throws the chain over the cable car from like 1,000 feet up, and with just his grip strength, is going to make it all the way down. Oh yeah, and he tells her to hang on to him. Right.
He's Batman.
The control goon gets the car started down toward Bond again, and Jaws is smiling as the car catches up to the ziplining duo and their devil-may-care view of physics.
Man, their devil-may-care view of physics.
He motions for the goon to speed up, like the goon could even see that in the first place. And it's important to note that this actual cable car in real life takes 4 hours to get up and down that mountain in one trip.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
In universe, though, Bond says jump to Goodhead when he meant let go. At the last second before the car runs them down. They land rolling, somehow, even though we cut to Jaws looking at them like, huh? And then the controller goon bailing, and then back to Jaws realizing at that moment he fucked up. Before showing the building he was about to crash into after all that, with the car still some 50 feet off the ground. So, how far did Bond fucking fall?
Right? It had to be a good 100-foot drop.
The car crashes into the building and out the other side, destroying the 7-Up product placement. As we zoom in on Jaws, trapped under a wheel he should totally be able to lift, given past feats of strength. But whatever. We see a 7-Up can and a very cool 7-Up cooler. I'm thirsty.
Yeah, man. I kind of want a 7-Up right now.
I want a 7-Up for some reason. I don't know why. As Jaws struggles to free himself, a pair of jiggling tits with pigtails runs up to help.
Yes.
This is Dolly, played by Blanche Reveille. This super tiny, super hot blonde with glasses is subject of a Mandela effect, where a lot of people remember her with braces. Most likely, as they subconsciously want such a cheesy thing to have happened to make them twinsies.
Yes, it would have been cute. And that's what I said. It's like, in hindsight, they should have gave her braces.
You people make me sick. Wouldn't it have been cute if she had metal braces like his?
So far, the movie's gone that far.
To be fair, I have no idea why they didn't do it, though.
Right, the movie's gone that far. So, just go all the way.
Jaws and Dolly lock eyes, and it's love at first sight. Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet overture plays, and they hold hands to walk off. Cut to Bond, who's luckily broken nothing but his tailor's heart. And, just like that, Goodhead dives on him. For saving her life, he gets to romp with her in the grass. but cock-blocking paramedics show up with stretchers.
I love how these dudes just show up out of nowhere. James Bond is like, oh no, we're all right.
Oh, thank you, but we're in great shape, Bond says, as the lead medic, who's actually Bob Simmons, knocks Bond the fuck out with a club he had as his stretcher's handle.
Like, why does it even have a trick club? I'm just saying, like, everybody has a trick gadget in this movie, even the paramedic goons.
Cut to an insert of a 1974 Chevrolet C10 dressed as an ambulance flying through the Rio streets. Now into said ambulance, where Goodhead and Bond are restrained to their gurneys. Goodhead teases the fake EMT played by our long-lasting lead stuntman, and Bond slowly frees his hands. He kicks a fire extinguisher that was in there for some reason, which blasts the goon.
If I were in charge of these goons, the guy who tied up James Bond to the stretcher with the obvious slides in it, who tied the rope to the part that slides.
Where you could slide it out.
Where you could slide it out. You're fired. You're fired. You're absolutely fucking fired.
In fact, you're getting blooded out.
Yeah. Like, it's just dumb.
Bond and the goon fight, and the goon punches Bond into Goodhead's crotch. But Bond apologizes, so I guess it's okay.
More slapstick.
Hey, look, 7-Up billboard.
Was that another 7-Up?
More punches. Wow, Seiko watches. Ew, Marlboros.
So many billboards on the side of this road.
Bond punches the goon some more, and they end up on the gurney as it flies out of the back of the ambulance, leading Goodhead to be carted off. Bond takes a serious tumble on cobblestone as the goon rides on the gurney into a billboard. He lands somehow 9 feet up and head into the billboard where a woman's mouth is. It's so ridiculous. We thought the last movie got cartoonish. This movie, as Carter said before, just doesn't stop.
It doesn't. It really doesn't.
Bond walks after Goodhead. The music swells into the theme from The Magnificent Seven as Bond rides up on a horse with 2 other men dressed as a gaucho.
In a serape, like Clint Eastwood. Did I mention spaghetti westerns were pretty popular at the time, too? I'm just saying, they're throwing every bit of every popular movie that came out in the last 5 years into this movie.
Bond thanks the men for the ride and walks into a building, the interior of which was shot at San Nicolo a Lido, a monastery outside Venice. He walks past monks, opens a door to judo monks, and then continues on.
Judo Christian monks, Catholic monks. Because if you notice at the end of the flip, the guy gave him the old spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch.
Next, he finds Moneypenny, who laughs at his attire, saying it looks as if he's just fallen off a mountain. Oh, it's funny you should say that. I was in a cable car. Never mind.
Well, yeah, she's not going to believe you fell out of a fucking plane without a parachute, bro. She's not going to believe you fell off a cable car. Come on.
She points him to the courtyard, and again, how fucking casual is this? I mean, I guess Wednesday is her day in Brazil.
Right?
It's starting to feel like Bond is in a coma and dreaming because these people don't seem to exist apart from him. That's why he's so famous and awesome and smart and lucky and suave and hangs out with Hef. He's dreaming. Bond walks out to Q, who gives a man bolos. Balls, Q, Bond quips. The man throws the weapon at a dummy. When they explode on the dummy's neck, Q says, "Good. Have that ready for Army Day." This movie really is a repeat of the last movie's beats.
It is, 100%.
The ship stealing, M getting the call and walking to the door for the over-the-shoulder shot of him asking Moneypenny for Bond to reveal Bond in a sexually suggestive situation that turns sticky.
Right.
Jaws, rival agents with a female working together begrudgingly.
Yep.
Rich douche who wants to destroy the world to remake his own way.
Yep. Check.
The traveling M's office with Q and Moneypenny in foreign countries like it's their second office. I could go on.
Yes, and we will.
A fake cowboy opens up and starts blasting. There's a monk with a laser gun and a "don't fuck with me" face. Q leads Bond to M. I love the location, but fuck me, the reverb in this scene is terrible. Q reveals the vial Bond sent him was a nerve toxin that only works on humans and dissipates very quickly. It comes from a special black orchid thought extinct until someone recently found some in the Amazon near the river Taparapi.
This is a great time for Bond to just drop all of his info brag knowledge about orchids. Because he knows everything about this fucking orchid.
He took a 10th at Cambridge at botany.
I must have.
Zoom on the map and fade to Bond on the Amazon in a badass Q boat.
Dude, that boat is dope.
He pushes through mangroves and enjoys his cruise until a Hugo Drax boat filled with banana goons starts firing mortars and chasing him away.
Do you wonder if this is why minions are yellow?
No.
Think about it. Gru kind of is this guy.
Bond puts up a bullet screen and ejects some mines, blowing the boat into smithereens, shot sky high with a dummy reaching at least 50 feet. It's fucking hilarious.
It is comical. It's like, what the fuck is in your boat?
But 2 more boats join the fray, and the chase continues. The music swells, mortars and machine guns fire. Bond shoots a torpedo that somehow blows a boat up from the inside and just ejects dummies everywhere, which again is hilarious.
Like, again, what the fuck do you got in your boat? That torpedo just made your console explode, homie. Like...
Also, somehow the torpedo explodes again, this time actually in the water, and the boat flips. It's kind of like they had a pyro on the boat and a water cannon underneath it, and they were not timed.
Yes.
The last boat still chases Bond, and Jaws is in it, firing and smiling. Bond heads for the falls. What falls? Iguazu Falls, in Brazil, on the Iguazu River. Nowhere near any river named Taparape, by the way.
Ah, yes. Bond racing his boat towards the edge of the falls. The boat that he promised Q he would take care of.
I'm not going to take care of this boat. I'm not going to take care. I'm going to destroy everything you give me, Q. Fuck you.
Everything. I'm driving this one off a cliff, buddy.
They sent a crew to film a hang glider over the falls, but the updrafts sent him into some trees. So, scratch it, we'll do it in post. Okay, how about sending a boat over the falls? So they anchored a boat on the falls and let it go, and it wedged on a rock. They couldn't even budge it to get it to go over the falls until a flood later knocked it over. So that'll be done with compositing and models also. There's some shots of the falls. Bond ejects from his boat with a hang glider because it's a Q-boat. Jaws looks bewildered. He grabs his boat's steering wheel but rips it off, and a toy boat goes over a mini falls with some dolls in it.
I was like, look, it's Fantastic Voyage.
They end the sequence with the shot of the actual hang glider bailing into the canopy. Like, we're still going to use that shot. We paid him.
Right, we paid him.
Bond walks off through the woods, finding a blonde played by Urka Bochenko. He tails the pair of cheekbones to Tikal Temple 4, the highest pyramid in Guatemala. Guatemala being famously on a different continent than Brazil.
Famously on a different continent than Brazil.
Inside the pyramid is Drax's great chamber. Ken went out of his way to make everything look as artificial and shiny plasticky as possible.
And he did a good job.
But panning over, we do get some golden Ken Adam design. Mayan-inspired aesthetics with sharp lines and neutral colors. The room is huge and has a lagoon and a bridge in the center.
He loves that. That's his favorite thing in the world. He's like, I got this tank right here in the studio. Let's put a bridge over it. Now build everything around that.
An army of Drax girls comes out and surround the room. And gotcha, bitch. A fake rock platform launches Bond into the artificial lagoon. A python goes into the water and starts squeezing Bond. And, hey, you stole Goodhead's pen. I bet you're a menace at restaurants, Bond.
And here, this whole scene, I was thinking to myself, I was like, how the fuck is he going to get away from that? Because nobody gets away from a python that big once it's got it coiled up. It's like, oh, he's got a poison pen. Of course he does.
There's inserts of real pythons and a man in the water. But as the water was so cold that day, all they could do was have the man in between where they were dropping the snakes in the water and where their warming platform was. So the constricting was an obviously fake snake, a terribly bad facsimile, which Roger stabs with his syringe pen. Standard CIA issue. Uncle Sam spends billions of taxpayer dollars every year on the best poisons known to man, and you can rest easy that fake snake died quick and painlessly.
Super fake snake. This is horrible.
A dripping wet Jaws plucks Bond out of the pool. Drax enters saying, "Mr. Bond, you ruined all my attempts to provide an amusing death for you." That's the hand-wave line in this movie trying to explain away a trope. I used to give movies credit for this in the beginning, but at this point, why bother?
I mean, if this guy is such a problem, why are you try to make it fun to kill it.
Why do you need an amusing death?
Right.
Just kill him.
Just kill him.
In the next room, we see Drax's Terran command center. Some pre-80s nightmare version of the set from The Matrix.
Yeah. I was going with early inspired Death Star or early Death Star inspired.
Ripoff then.
Yes.
The entire thing is covered in screens, real and fake. Drax is in some acrylic retro future throne, but keeps getting up to talk about how great he was making the nerve gas and also to watch shuttles take off, with the gas and astronauts from his program. You'll hear the word confirm some 30 times during this sequence. I think they thought it sounded official.
Oh, confirmed is the word they use at NASA all the time. Confirmed.
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 Confirmed. Confirmed. Confirmed. Confirmed. Confirmed.
Confirmed.
Drax tells Bond that one of his shuttles developed a flaw during assembly, so instead of fixing it or making another one, he just stole one that he gave to America and alerted everyone to his plan. Well, that was dumb.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb.
Drax tells Jaws to take Bond to where he can be warm, and we cut to more shuttles getting ready to take off. Bond is taken to another iconic Ken Adams set, starting with the attached hallway. It's cold and gray, with lines leading down the hall to accentuate the length, a slanted ceiling, and odd protruding structures to close the space in. He then enters the main set, a Dr. Strangelove-esque round desk meeting area with so much metallic silver, steel, and rust paint.
This is one of the oddest rooms I've ever seen in my life for a multitude of reasons that we're going to get into, I'm sure, in just a moment.
The design is impeccable and immediately draws your eyes up to the large, fan-like structure on the ceiling. Inside, he finds Goodhead. The two embrace, and the entire office area folds into the floor, and the ceiling cap opens up, revealing 5 giant rocket engines, 3 on the shuttle, and 2 huge boosters, all pointed into the death bowl Bond has found himself.
Why would you build an office space down here? It's a complete waste of space.
It's cool.
Cool? It's cool. It's cool until you launch that fucking rocket, because that fucking steel fan with all the gaps in it, not going to protect this room one iota.
So he's leaving the Earth. He'll come back, but shit, at that point he'll have the whole Earth. Who gives a shit if he destroys this room when he's done? It's disposable.
It's a disposable office with cool-ass folding chairs. I guess if you have the money, waste it.
Yeah. Well, it's also not going to matter anymore soon.
Yeah.
We're going to have a new dollar. It's going to be called the Hugo. It's going to float like there's no gravity. Drax bids them farewell and boards the rocket intended to cremate them. This movie has actual protracted attempts to kill Bond. If he flirted with Moneypenny, this would have brought back all the hits.
Right?
There's a lot this movie does actually do right.
There is a lot that this movie actually does right.
Bond runs to the air vent and pulls plastic explosive out of his watch. And did they set this up and I missed it, or is this another ass gadget?
I'm pretty sure it's another ass gadget. You didn't miss the setup.
Bond blows the shit out of the door with his watch detonator and says, "Bang on time." And that was a good one.
Yeah, that was all right, but no, it wasn't. I'm sorry.
It was. It was all right. It was better than a lot of them.
It was okay. I was probably number 3.
My bar is getting lowered, okay?
Well, do you even have a bar in this movie?
They're making these comedies and they're nonstop hitting us with these one-liners.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how good you are at delivering them when there's like 20 million per movie. Most of them are going to suck. And that's the writer's fault.
Yeah.
They crawl, Die Hard style, through the vents as the flaming exhaust fills in behind them for a few feet and then stops for some reason. In real life, they're toasted.
No, in real life, they're so toasted. They didn't get out of the room until 3. They have no chance.
They were so dead.
I don't know how many of our viewers have actually seen a rocket launch, like even on
how
the videos.
How far those flames would go into those vents.
But yeah, that gas that goes out the back end of that rocket is super hot. It's not just the flames. It's just...
And they're in the vent. Like, where do you think the flames are going? Like, they don't just magically disappear. They have to get out.
Yeah. Yep. That would have roasted him.
That's a lot of heat going through, even if you couldn't see it with light anymore by the time it got to you.
Yep.
Bond and Goodhead crawl out into the main area, which is beyond stunning as a set, and jump on an atom cart behind cargo. They drive through an amazing area that's actually a colossal gypsum mine beneath the streets of Paris.
Oh, sweet. I didn't know that.
They jump off the cargo cart and ambush the pilots for the Moonraker 6, taking their clothing before boarding the vessel.
Who just happened to be coming this way?
I thought about that. Right after you hear that they're coming, he just looks over and it's like, oh, hey, what up?
Hey, what up, pilots?
Command starts counting down for launch of the rocket as the duo is getting into their seats. They don't even check to see if they're strapped in yet, because they weren't. She also tells Bond it's cool because they're on a prearranged flight plan, as in, the computer's got this. So, why are you there? Why does the shuttle need pilots? They're literally like, 3, 2, 1. He's like getting strapped in real quick. I'm like, what the fuck? You gotta put your helmet on?
No.
Oh, okay.
The rules are different.
They don't even care if you're strapped in.
Right, you don't need pressure suits or nothing for this. Right, just let's go.
The ship takes off, and it's a model with salt pouring out of some holes punched in the bottom.
Huh.
And even though she said she ain't got to do shit, she's immediately got her hand on the stick and is flipping switches to ditch the boosters.
That's the first thing I said to myself. Is like, wait a minute, bitch. If this thing's on automatic, why are you pushing buttons? Like, I thought you said it was on automatic. Are you lying to me right now?
I don't trust you.
Right.
They carry their heavy-ass tank after that still. None of this is accurate. She also moves really, really slowly. They all move really, really, really slowly, like there's a ton of resistance in space or something.
It's weird. Everybody's in slow motion.
Then they pay homage to 2001 with slow music and an attempt at balletic spinning ships in space.
Yeah, good try, though. Good try.
Bond sees that there's humans paired off and making out in the back of the shuttle, and immediately deduces the entirety of the plan from there. Which, yeah, doesn't take a super genius that went to Cambridge for 30 years to figure out at this point.
Well, part of the plan should have been putting out every one of those people in a spacesuit instead of fucking miniskirts and whatever the fuck the dudes were wearing.
Well, if it was Gene Roddenberry's universe, the dudes would have been in miniskirts too.
Yeah, there you go.
The shuttles are slowing down, converging for rendezvous, but where? As Bond sees a giant space station coming into the sunlight in low Earth orbit.
That's no moon.
How the fuck has no one noticed this? I mean, spoiler, there's jamming equipment aboard, fine, but a dude in his backyard with a telescope from Sears just saw that thing and is blowing up NORAD talking about aliens.
That's what I was saying. It's like, there's a lot of people who look at this thing. I mean, unless it was stationed on the dark side of the moon, which they did not go to, anybody with a good telescope could see it. Shit, it's big enough that you could probably see it with binoculars.
The shittiest telescope or the best binoculars, you're in business. Upon reveal, it's a beautifully intricate model that is a pain in the ass to cut out the shape of by hand in Photoshop. An entire city in space, and it's not showing up on radar, so nobody on Earth knows it's there, Bond says. But that's such BS, it's lazy AF writing.
We've got to go disable the tractor beam.
The shuttle's docked for everyone to board the Ark. The entrance tube and spacesuits are a total reference to 2001. Wirework and painfully slow movements sell the zero-G. A space goon floats up and starts the station spinning for simulated gravity. Why does Hollywood think this works?
Because physicists say it kinda does.
No, it creates centrifugal force. It'll push everyone to the sidewalls furthest from the center of the spin, not provide vertical 1G Earth gravity evenly throughout the station.
It doesn't work like that at all, Matthew. You're absolutely right. It does not provide gravity even through the station. Why is there a manual on switch for the entire space station that you have to turn on with a spacesuit? I mean, why isn't that shit automatic? Why isn't it already on? Like, who the fuck built this and didn't turn it on?
Didn't turn it on because it wasn't ready to be on yet, though. You're going to make my coffee a week before I get there? Fuck you. Turn off the coffee maker. Look, I go to vacation for a week, I turn off my heater. I know my house will be cold when I get back, and that sucks, and I gotta come in and turn it on and deal with that for a minute. But at least I'm not paying to heat no one for a week.
When you have money like this guy, why do you care?
Because he only has so much energy stored aboard.
Okay, that's fair.
For so long a certain mission. Here we are explaining it again.
Right? No, it's dumb. They have an on switch for the space station. It's dumb.
Everyone fills the station now, including Bond, Goodhead, Dolly, and Jaws. Bond sees the gas pods being loaded like photon torpedoes, and Drax enters to give his monologue. Here, in the untainted heavens, he'll send down poison to kill off the humans of the world, then repopulate with his perfect race of superhumans. It's the last plot, but sub the ocean for space and add eugenics, which was implied but never stated last time. Bond and Goodhead search for the radar jammer to disable it. Doing so would alert the world of the station's presence. They enter a room that has no gravity for some reason, and bulkheads seem to allow or stop the flow of gravity as well as if it were a liquid.
No physics there. Physics broken.
Bond and Goodhead enter the 50th Atom set this movie and take out some tech goons with a smile and a few punches. Goodhead does 95% of the work here. She's even the one who disables the radar jammer. Bond literally throws one punch.
Literally one punch. Lets Goodhead do all the work. Watches. Admires.
Cut to an American war room where Mike Wilson plays a NASA tech handing a paper to Colonel Scott, played by Mike Marshall. Scott is on the phone with General Gogol, and Scott swears the Americans didn't put it up, and Gogol swears the Russians didn't either, so the Americans get back to getting ready to storm the station, and Gogol gets back to the problems that he was handling.
That's funny. He got all sorts of chatty when he was like, oh, sorry to wake you. He's like, oh, you didn't wake me. He got chatty. He was like, oh, you didn't wake me. I'm just here banging problems. Out.
Leaving the radar area, Bond and Goodhead see the pods beginning to be launched. Bond turns and sees Jaws smiling at them. Bond has already tried to shoot Jaws in the teeth, and he's punched him in the gut to much the same effect. Now Bond punches Jaws in the jaw. Dumbass.
Nope, doesn't work. Guess what? It's metal still.
Kneeing Jaws in the nuts has a small effect, but mostly just makes a gong sound.
Yep, because that's metal too. It's Iron Balls McGinty.
Bond is zapped with light-up sticks and walks away like, fine, whatever. I'll go to my room then.
I know, they touch him with the stick, and he doesn't even act like it hurts a lot.
He doesn't act like it hurts. He doesn't drop to the floor incapacitated. He's just like, all right, I'm walking then.
You touched me with the stick.
You got me.
Flag football. Let's not get too rough.
The spies are taken to Drax, who calls Bond annoying again before launching the second death pod. This is the ugliest set in the movie so far. It feels like we're definitely in that station, but it's very disjointed and slightly haphazard for Ken. The style and aesthetics are there, but it just feels like he may have rushed this set with so many to tackle for one film.
I felt the same way. I felt this was also kind of Death Star inspired, but rushed. It looked like they were like, okay, Ken, we got to wrap this up. You got about 2 weeks.
Allow me to introduce you to the airlock chamber, Drax says. And it's so dope, dude. I love that line. Bond calls him out for his eugenics and how people with deformities won't be allowed to live, like Giant Jaws and his tiny bespectacled girlfriend. And Jaws notes this. Drax tells Jaws to expel them and yells at Jaws saying that he obeys him. Jaws says, bitch, fuck you, and knocks some guards about until guns get drawn. Cut to the American shuttle rushing in, and Drax says, prep the laser to blast them. As they acquire the target, Bond spies the full stop for the station. He hits it, and retro thrusters fire, stopping the station, ruining the laser attack and shutting off the impossible gravity.
Anybody not on the floor when they stopped spinning the station slammed into the wall. None of them would have lived. They'd have been smashed into paste.
So what do logical astronauts do? They get suited up and head out en masse to shoot at the army of invading astronauts with laser guns and no tethers, of course.
I love how they thought space combat was going to be like. Everybody's on an EVA pack. Everybody's got a laser rifle, except for the guy who had the laser machine gun.
Colonel Scott sees this and says, challenge accepted, opening the cargo doors and releasing his laser knots for the climactic battle, which I won't call epic this time. It's supposed to be, but it ain't. Hundreds of dudes in space, non-stop chaotic cuts, fighting with laser guns, and it's kinda lame.
It is pretty lame.
The American shuttle docks and even more space soldiers come out fighting, trying to take over the station. But, Jesus, how many dudes were in that one shuttle?
All of them, Matthew. They were all in there. You didn't see that? They opened that shuttle out and they were pouring out like fucking flea circus. There was a bunch of them in there.
It's an anthill, and we stepped on it. Another pod launches. Bond, Jaws, and Goodhead fight the Banana Goons till they meet up with Colonel Scott. Then they take over the main control set, and everything immediately starts blowing up. Lasers, pyro, and Jaws pushing a ladder over with a dude on it and finding it hilarious.
It was funny.
It's way better than the fight outside.
Oh, yeah.
They actually hold on shots for more than half a second. Bond chases Drax down a tube. Shit's still blowing up. Drax is backing toward an airlock before grabbing a laser gun saying, "At least I'll have the pleasure of putting you out of my misery. Desolated, Mr. Bond?" Bond fires his wrist dart into Drax's chest saying, "Heartbroken, Mr. Drax." Bond pushes him into an airlock saying, "Take a giant step for mankind," before expelling Drax into space. This was achieved with a camera on the ground and Lonsdale suspended on a wire above, then pulled up quickly when the hatch opened up. Goodhead finds Bond, who says Drax had to fly. They stop the station from firing more pods, but they've got to destroy the 3 they fired over the course of the last 10 minutes. Good luck. Bond tells the Americans to evacuate the station as it tears itself apart. Bond sees Moonraker 5 and says Drax's shuttle has a laser which we can use to destroy those pods with, which A, is incredibly convenient, and B, how do you fucking know that?
Yeah, how do you know that? Okay.
The duo head to Moonraker 5, but the docking clamps are jammed. Cutting to Jaws and Dolly, we see them drinking champagne, and Jaws speaks, saying, "Well, here's to us." The spies appeal to Jaws to manually release them before the spy duo leaves the lovers to their inevitable deaths. Bond says, "Don't worry, they'll make it. It's only 100 miles to Earth," as the lovers plummet.
He's very optimistic.
Yeah, to say the least. The spies then track down the first of the pods and destroy it with a laser. They find the second immediately, but start skipping on the Earth's atmosphere in glowing red. They destroy the pod and somehow come upon the first pod fired some 15 minutes ago, literally half a second later.
Yeah, how fast was their fucking shuttle moving? That's what I was wondering. I was like,
how could they shot a pod, like 5 minutes later shot a pod, like 10 minutes later shot another pod, and they all just catch up to them, bam, bam, bam.
Right?
Bond fires at the pod, but misses as the heat has messed up the computer's auto-aim. Bond goes to manual aim and fires the laser.
Use the force, James.
And he misses again. The pod starts entering the atmosphere, and Bond fires one more time, destroying the poisonous globe before it poisoned our globe.
Oh, man, they did. They did their best. They did their best to copy Star Wars.
100%. 100%. Cut to a control room of some kind with Q for some reason, and a NASA tech for some reason, calling out that the American Colonel Scott reports picking up 2 survivors in space, a tall man and a short woman. And I'm just going to move on because it's that stupid. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow.
Wow, wow, wow.
Wow, wow, wow. As a great pitch guy once said, wow, wow, wow. Bond and Goodhead's shuttle speed over some tracking stations that the suits have, and the suits hack into the ship's onboard monitors and radios. I don't know how they'd have access to Drax's personal craft, but whatever.
But whatever, because that's how TV monitors work. Both ways.
They patch the feed to the White House and Buckingham Palace and then turn it on. And surprise, it's Bond and Goodhead joining the 60 Mile High Club. 0G banging, baby.
0G banging.
The crowd's all robble, 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 and M sighs, 007. Grace screams, "My God, what's Bond doing?" And Q, looking at the radar readout, says, "I think he's attempting re-entry, sir." Cut to Bond, turning off the Pornhub cam, and she says, "Take me around the world one more time." The movie's theme strikes up, the credits roll, and it took 11 films, but we finally didn't end near the water. This movie is terrible.
Oh, man.
Don't get me wrong. Every critique and complaint you've ever heard or had is perfectly valid. But it truly is so tropey, so schlocky, so bad it's good. It's incredibly entertaining. They redid beats from the last movie to varying degrees of success. They brought back bits we haven't seen for a while. Roger is hitting his stride. They improved the villain and the plot from the last film, but went way overboard with the silliness and cartoonishness. There's so much they did wrong, but there's so much they did right. The sets were the best ever. The globetrotting and space-traveling story is overly ambitious and ridiculous, and definitely proved that for the first time, they really bit off more than they could chew. But somehow, the film is still better than we tell ourselves and our mates. I mean, it's terrible, but it's just better than you remember is all I'm saying. I had fun watching this, but again, a lot of that was just enjoying how terrible it was. D+.
So, true story, this is the first Bond movie that I do remember seeing in the movie theater. And for a 9-year-old, this movie was fucking fantastic. Everything was hilarious. I remember this movie liking it a lot. I remember it being silly for James Bond because I had seen other James Bond movies. But I remember this was like the James Bond movie for me at 9. You know what I'm saying? This movie was a fucking cartoon. And everything you just said was absolutely right. This movie was horrible. But it fell into that so bad it's kind of good category. It wasn't boring by any means. Just silly.
It was a hell of a lot better than The Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, hell of a lot better than The Man with the Golden Gun. That movie was boring as shit.
Yes, it was. Just the worst thing you could be.
This movie ranks a lot higher in a lot of my scorings than I thought it would. It wasn't awful. A C-.
For the kill count, how many do you think Bond kills?
I would say about 15 guys, 13 to 15, something like that.
12. Bond kills 12, 69 die by other means for a total of 81.
There you go.
For the pre-title. The pre-title is a redo of the last movie's pre-title that tries to go harder, higher, and funnier, and just falls flat. The skydive stunt was, again, cool, but the quick cuts and obvious stuntmen with cartoonish gags doesn't let it compare to the last movie's opening stunt. 8th place.
I actually put this in 9th place because it's not as bad as Dr. No or The Man with the Golden Gun, but it ain't better than anything else.
The title or theme?
Well, 10th place. Only The Man with the Golden Gun is worse.
Oh, wow. It's funny that you say that because I also put it in 10th place. I said the title sequence is a much better redo of the last movie. One of the few things they did improve instead of make worse. Aesthetically, though, it's nothing special and it's thematically lazy. The song is absolute garbo, though, so 10th place.
For sure.
Moneypenny pickup line. They interact twice in this movie, but both times it's like, hi, where were you? Crazy situation? Lulz, don't believe you. Okay, bye. I guess she laughed at him, so 10th place.
I gave this 11th place because there was really no Moneypenny interaction, and there was actually more in Dr. No. So, there you go.
Q gadgets. There's X-ray safecrackers, wristwatch plastic explosives, foreign-themed Q-Lab shit, again, a la last movie. But the only thing Q really gives Bond is the wristwatch dart gun, which is used a few times and kills the baddie, so 4th place.
I also gave this 4th place.
No way.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking Q gadgets in this. I mean, yes, he only gives him one, but there was more gadgets in this than pretty much a whole bunch of Bond.
That gadget was used multiple times, saved his life, and killed the bad guy.
Yes. Yeah, 4th place.
Cars. Bond drives a Jeep for a quick second. Question mark. There's no car. 11th place.
There is no car. 11th place. Moon. Yep. 11th place. No car.
Main ally. It's Dr. Goodhead. It really is, and she's never a damsel in distress either. But to keep her as Bond girl, and this is going to piss Carter off, we'll count Colonel Scott.
Fuck? Who?
We'll count Colonel Scott as the third act ally. He gets the job done, but that's about all you could say of his character or lack thereof. 9th place, he's still better than KFC Felix.
I have this also in 9th place because he's still better than KFC Felix.
Villains. Hugo Drax, a super-rich, space-enthused megalomaniac with plans to kill all humans and restart the human race in his superior form. A la some Nazi Noah's Ark shit. He's smooth and cold, classy and calculating, and way too good for this movie. 5th place.
Wow. Tossed him up there, huh? I gave him 8th place because he is the top of the C-tier villains.
Main Hinch, Jaws Part 2, starring Roy Scheider. Just kidding. Jaws is back and made into a good guy by the end. He's even more cartoonish than ever and kills anything that he ever had going for himself in the first movie for some non-laughs. 9th place, How the Mighty Have Fallen.
Yeah, he drops all the way to 8th place in this one for me. Not as bad as some of those other guys, but not living up to his first outing, not at all.
Bond Girl, Holly Goodhead, doctor at NASA or CIA spy? Both?
Both?
She can take on goons by herself while Bond does nothing, then does most of the work saving the day too. She is the true ally of the film and never in need of saving, and I gave her 2nd place.
Woo-wee! You moved around up there, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right, well, I gave her 4th place, and it was tough. But the 2 Russian broads?
She was better than Anya. She did everything Anya did, more, and wasn't a damsel in distress by the end. So I had to put her over Anya.
And nobody's going to beat Domino. So, there you go.
One-liner. My favorite one-liner of this film, which had good ones all over, honestly, was when Trex said that Bond missed with the burnt gun and the assassin falls out of the tree dead, and Bond says, "Did I?" Which is first place for me out of all of the one-liners so far.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it beats He Had Guts from On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Okay. Well, I didn't rank any too high. All of the one-liners kind of fell flat with me in this one and kind of recycled. Nothing really made me giggle out loud or anything like that, except for Dr. Goodhead's name. This is in 10th place.
Locations: California, Venice, Rio de Janeiro, and the Amazon.
I like the locations. They were well shot, but it was kind of pedantic. I put it in 7th place, which is slightly ahead of Dr. No, because it felt about the same.
We are so wildly off on this one.
Yeah.
The locations were hard this time to judge. On one hand, they're getting very, very good at finding what to show off when they go somewhere, and very good at how to do it, a la Money Shots. But it's just so much bouncing in this movie, and it was bogged down and hard to keep up with. It started to become too much and often ruined with product placement. But it was still a great job on a lot of locations. Like I said, we're getting really good at knowing what to show off and how to show them off as well. And I actually gave it 3rd place.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Projected attempt to kill Bond. The centrifuge. The snake. So many. I picked the shuttle pit in the end, and you could pick that one or any of them. But my point is the shuttle pit in the end took it for me. And as much as Carter hates that room, it's my 2nd place.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I hate that room. I'm sorry. I give it to the centrifuge, though, because I loved it. It's just fun, techno, plausible. I mean, he wasn't even wearing a pressure suit. He should have died at like 5 Gs.
I hated that room. That's the room I hated.
I know you did. But I didn't rank it quite as high because, you know, there are other better, I thought, protracted attempts. So 4th place for me.
The mission or plot. Track down a stolen shuttle and stop another proto-Elon Musk from killing off the world for his perfect race in space. A better version of the stupid plot from last time, 6th place.
I actually agree with you, but it's still 10th place.
Stunts. The skydiving stunt in the beginning was good. Dickie hanging out of the cable car was nuts. Honestly, there's nothing here, though, that you haven't seen before, and better, the 3rd act is very slow and restricted. So 5th place for me.
We're kind of spot on this. I was basically agree with you. The fight scenes were slow and clunky. The best parts were chase scenes and the skydiving part. This was 6th place for me.
The score.
The score. It didn't grab me. 8th place.
He's like, that is all he has to say. And I feel like that's actually very fair because there's nothing to say about this score. Did you hear a Moonraker refrain?
No.
The score is lazy and it's uninspired, and after the last few films, it really stood out.
Right. It did.
In the credits, when I saw John Barry's name, I was like, y'all brought him back after we'd been doing so good?
Yeah.
John Barry had it once, but stop bringing him back when others come in and smash him every time. 9th place. The movie.
I have a little pang of nostalgia for this movie, and I like it better than I thought I would. I put this movie in 5th place because it's better than The Spy Who Loved Me, because it's the same movie, but they just did it a little bit better. So, 5th place.
I'm on the other side of you. I think there's things they did better, but I think overall The Spy Who Loved Me was a better film. For me, it's a movie that's way more entertaining than it should be, and to say it's all bad is flat wrong. It's just what it does wrong is so terrible that it washes away any merit earned. It's still fun, and I gave it 8th place. This and Diamonds Are Forever are on the exact same level for me. But Diamonds was overly brown, so this gets a nudge.
Okay. Overly brown. They toned the brown down in this one, so this one's slightly better.
Yep, 100%. If they're on the exact same level and this is less brown, this wins.
There you go. That's fair.
And that's how I ranked this at 8th place.
That's fair. Color has a lot to do with how you enjoy a movie.
As they said, Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only.
For real this time.
And so will we. Until then, happy holidays, guys.
Happy holidays. I'm Agent Carter.
And I'm Agent Sedgwick.
Stay spying, y'all.